All right, so as I was introduced, if I had to give an elevator pitch right now, I would say I'm a serial entrepreneur, I'm a writer and author, and I'm a business coach, an executive coach, essentially, okay? And I do travel around the world. I'm fortunate enough to have lived in about 7 countries. I am fortunate enough to have traveled to about 70 countries. My business, before I sold it a couple years ago, we were operating in 35 countries. So I know a little bit about the context that you're operating in. And I was telling a group this morning, I'm a little OCD. Everybody know what that means? I'm sure you do. Okay. Well, I had been to every country. I've been to all the stands, except Pakistan, and it's been bothering me for about 15 years. So I can't tell you how excited I am to be here because I needed to check Pakistan off my list, and now I've done that. But I was pleasantly surprised when I got to Pakistan with the energy and the excitement and talking to people like you guys who are doing cool stuff, innovative stuff, world-class stuff, okay? And so I'm really excited to sit here and talk to you today about entrepreneurship. And what I want to do, I think, is, oh, thank you. I do want to thank the U.S. Embassy for giving me the opportunity to speak to you. I go on a couple, probably 4 or 5 programs a year with embassies around the world to talk to groups. So I'm very pleased that they invited me to come to Pakistan. Also want to thank the Nest for having me as well. So I have to get all the thank yous out of the way. But so I want to talk to you about a couple things today. I want to talk to you about my journey in entrepreneurship and tell you about that and why I chose entrepreneurship. And it's probably not the reasons, if you'd asked me 10 years ago or 15 years ago why I'm going to become an entrepreneur, I would have probably given you different answers. But I want to tell you about my journey. It's a good intro into my journey into entrepreneurship. And then I want to give you about 10 or 15 tips of things that you've probably already heard. People have probably told you 100 times. But I just want to reinforce some of those things when you start running your businesses that are critical for success. And I've been fortunate enough to be on the stage with some of the top names in business. I've been fortunate enough to interview in my article some of the top people in business. And some of the things that we'll talk about today are some of the habits that I see typical in successful entrepreneurs. So let me start by saying this. Look, there's 75 million people around the world your age that are out of work. And my assumption is that it's probably higher than that. We probably don't know how high it is. It's probably closer to 100 million. And so in a lot of countries, I've got a project in Africa right now, in southern Africa. In that country, 50% of the young people are out of work. When you go to college, you're not guaranteed any sort of opportunity when you go to university. And so I believe that we've got to think about entrepreneurship as one of the answers to that big problem. And that's going to cause problems years from now, as people can't find work and they expect to find work and they can't. So that's one of the reasons I do these programs, is because I think we've got to have and push entrepreneurship as the answer to that big global problem. And it's not like, the world's not like it was when my father went to college and university. He was almost guaranteed, and I'm sure it's similar here in some instances, 40, 50 years ago, you were almost guaranteed a middle-class existence. He went to university, got a job, worked for the same place for 40 years. He was guaranteed a company pension, a state pension. My mother was the same way. She was a teacher. And so their life was very set. But I've never worked anywhere more than a couple of years, even in my own companies. And so that's our future, right? That's our future. So we have to, I think entrepreneurship can give you a good future. So, where'd that thing go? Got it. So number one in my entrepreneurship journey, and the reason I chose entrepreneurship, is I like to be challenged. Has anybody ever worked for someone else? Were you challenged? Yes? Okay. For how long? Right? After a few months, at least for me, after I learned the job and learned what was expected, after a while, you know, that's the reason I became an entrepreneur. I worked for USAID for a while. I worked for a big communications company for a while in the US. And my last job with USAID, I thought I had it made. I was getting paid to fill up passport pages. I was living in different parts of the world, making decent money, helping people. But there was something, have you ever felt that thing right here that said you weren't doing the right thing? Sort of that nagging feeling that's right there. Well, that's what I had. And I didn't really understand what that was, but when I became an entrepreneur, that light bulb went off and said, man, this is where you should be. You don't need to go anywhere else. You found what you're calling. So, and what I mean by that is, and what really makes me happy about being an entrepreneur is I'm challenged every day. There is something new, and it's tough. It's the hardest thing. Have you guys got ongoing businesses?
Yes.
Is it the hardest thing you've done?
Yes.
In many ways, right?
Yes.
Is it stressful?
Yes.
But would you do anything else
No.
right now? Yeah, I mean, that's the feeling you get, right? You're challenged on so many levels. And so I dig that. I really enjoy that, and I wouldn't change that. Number two, I can't describe to you what the feeling was like, and maybe you've experienced this. But I remember the first time I walked into a Toys R Us. My first company was a children's toy company. The first time I walked into a store, there's a big retailer called Toys R Us in the United States, one of the biggest toy retailers in the world. And I remember walking into the store, and my product was up on the shelf, something that I had drawn on a piece of paper about 16 months before. So bringing products to life and bringing things to life is something that will last a lifetime. I'm never going to forget that feeling. And so being in charge of your own destiny and bringing products to life and bringing solutions to your customers is an incredible feeling. Number three I wouldn't have thought about 10 years ago. It wasn't in my thinking. We located our business in a very economically depressed area. It was a very poor area, and we did it for business reasons because land was cheap, property was cheap, we needed a lot of warehouse space. We did it because labor was cheap. We did it for all the business reasons. But I didn't realize it until a little while later, a couple years later, when we had all of the people that were working with us and all of their families and their children. We had a big picnic and we had a big family gathering. And it really struck me that we were creating jobs. And those jobs were supporting families and they were supporting children, and that we did that. And that was a pretty powerful feeling that we were creating jobs and helping people in that way. That's something that might come later, but it is a feeling that you will have that you're really doing something special and helping people. And let's face it, the backbone of all economies around the world is small and medium-sized business. And so you're doing something good. Number four, who likes to lead? Who likes to follow? Okay, about half and half, right? Seriously, who likes to lead? Everybody like to lead? Okay. It's one of the reasons why I became an entrepreneur. Has anybody ever been in a job and they felt like they could do it better, but they had no power to make those changes?
Yes.
It's frustrating, isn't it? It's really frustrating. Well, guess what? As an entrepreneur, that's all on your shoulders. That's all right.
The HDMI cable.
Just the kite cable. All right. So that was number 5. Let's move on. Number 6. They come off there.
Akash, the HDMI cable, because the TV was on, but
All right, so number 5 is providing a better quality of life for your family. A couple things on that point. When I work for somebody else, or when you work for somebody else, do you have control of your time? Really? I remember for so long, you were nervous about taking vacation or holidays because you didn't want to miss something. You were attached to your phone. My phone, I don't know where my phone is, but you were attached to your phone 24 hours a day. If your boss emailed you at 11 p.m., there was an expected response, right? I remember my son is a pretty good soccer player, a football player, and not being able to go see a match, in the afternoon after school. So I was losing the things and the time. Nobody ever is on their deathbed and says, I wish I'd spent more time at work, right? So, I was missing the important things. And so as I've grown older and gotten a little more gray hair, I've realized that was an important part of why I want to be an entrepreneur and why I still am.
you're back.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. What I also realized was that number 6, making others' life better through your products and services. I know that I am not going to cure cancer. I'm not going to cure the world problem of hunger and disease. But what my products, particularly when I was working with the toys, it was nothing better than to see a child smile. Nothing better than to see a child happy with a toy. So, in a sense, for me, it made me feel really good that we were making and bringing happiness to kids. And so that's another reason why I became an entrepreneur. Can anybody understand what I'm talking about here? Ruling the world and improving your own personal power. Increasing your personal power.
I think it's about self-actualization. When you reach a stage, you want to see how much potential do you have, and apart from impacting businesses, you really want to grow as a person.
That's close.
I think it's also about the impact that I can generate as a person, but then as a leader or an entrepreneur, the impact that I create that is much larger, and especially when it just goes global.
You are the only person that nailed it for me. Thank you. Thank you. So I'll tell you a story. About 2011 or so, we were sitting in, I was sitting in my office, and then as I was saying, we're in an economically depressed, our business is located in an economically depressed area. And my assistant comes in the door, and she says, "The governor is here." And I said, "The governor? What governor? Governor what?" And she said, "The governor." She's white, she's nervous. And, we know politicians, we know government. Like, if you want to go see the head of the city or the head of the state or whatever, you have to go to the Capitol, or you have to go to the big building up on the hill, and there's security, and there's all this, stuff. You have to know somebody probably to even do that. And so I was surprised a second later when the governor of our state pushed her way kind of around my assistant and had kind of barged into my office and said that she wanted to talk to us. And the reason she had wanted to talk to us is because we had just become the fastest growing company in the state. We had won one of the fastest growing companies in the U.S. Through Inc. magazine. We were starting to get some national attention. And she wanted to talk about economic development. She wanted to talk about what we were doing and how we were doing it. And what I realized after that, and in several other meetings, after that, is that we could start having an impact on policy. Once we got some business credibility, and as we were building our business and we were successful, people started to listen to what we had to say. And so using that to influence good policy, using that for good, to raise money for charities, whatever it is you decide you want to use your influence for, but do use it for good. Let me say that. But you begin to have influence, and that was the point. So these are really my top reasons why I've learned that entrepreneurship is for me. Everybody, like I said, everybody's going to have different reasons, and they may change and evolve. But these are some of the things that you'll discover over time. Does anybody have one to add as a reason to be an entrepreneur?
To leave behind a legacy.
Yeah, I mean that was number 5, I think. Yeah, or number 2. Yes. Yeah, leave a legacy, something that's yours, something that you built, something that you can be proud of, something you can leave behind. Absolutely.
So one of the things that I aim to do is to earn enough money so that I don't have to worry about money afterwards, and I can do things that I'm interested in.
Yeah, right. Your time, your own freedom. Yeah. That freedom and time is one of my values. If I write a personal mission, I've got a personal mission statement that guides and keeps me focused and keeps me on task. And part of that is to own my own time, and because we don't get it back. All right, so tips to running your business. Now, I'm going to skip over. I've got about 50 on this presentation, but I want to do about 10 or so, and then really get to some question and answers that you guys are thinking about. So business plans. I know everybody's drilled that into your head. For every business that we've ever run, we've created a business plan. I'll tell you a couple reasons why. The first one that we had was 600 pages, and it went on the floor in front of my door to keep my door open. Okay? It was an absolutely useless document, right? But they are essential. We went overboard. However, I do think that all the business plans that we create now are 10 to 20 pages long. And as long as you answer all the fundamental questions, right? The marketing side, the finance side, who your customer is, how you're going to reach them. If you answer all the fundamental questions in that business plan that you have, it's essential. And you're planning for success. If you don't plan, you plan to fail. And I know that's a cliche, but it's true. The statistic for businesses that don't have business plans is 30% more, you're 30% more likely to fail if you don't have a business plan. I'll give you another example of something that happened to me recently. I'm working on an incubator in Africa, and everybody was supposed to turn in their business plans. They turned in business plans. Everybody looks the same, on the same paper, same typeface. And I said, well, did you guys collaborate on these things or something? What happened? They said, oh, there's a guy down the street that writes business plans. Okay, and so it put me 2 months behind because we had to get to we had to focus on writing the business plans. So don't let that happen to you. Focus and on your plan. Write it yourself. Write it with your team, so that you know everything that you're going to face. So that you, at least when it happens, and you have to make a change, you have to make a pivot, something doesn't go right, or it goes right. You've thought about all the angles that you might have to take. I just think it's that important to have given things some thought, because the worst thing you can do is make rash decisions and quick decisions with little information. Okay? That's the quickest way to run your business in the ground. Okay? I'm going to talk about budget, and I'm going to lump that in with a couple of subjects. But budget, again, your budget plan, your finance plan. I'm going to tell you a couple stories. So I've got a friend of mine that I'm coaching right now. He's been in business for a little while, had some success. He called me up a few weeks ago and he said, I don't have any money. I said, well, your sales look good. What's going on? We start looking at the books. Things don't look right. And I say, well, what are these big purchases here? What is this right here? Well, he went out and he bought himself a car. Not any car. He bought himself like a Maserati, you know. And he wonders why he doesn't have any money. And he does this regularly. He goes out and he'll buy a toy, right? And so, I mean, ultimately his business is going to fail. He's making a lot of money, so he can spend money. But at some point, that's going to catch up, right? Because the business is going to slow down, something's going to happen, and all of a sudden he can't buy enough product, he can't buy. So it's lack of discipline that's going to kill him. And with the budget, you have to be almost religious about it, and you have to be just very strict on what you spend money on. You got to have discipline. I've seen it many, many, many times over my life in business. The businesses that often fail, it's often because of not paying attention to the budget. And what I didn't realize when I became a business person was you have so many people that come in your door wanting you to spend money. I remember one time in my area, a TV sales rep came into my office and he said, I want to put your face on TV. You know, you'd look good on TV. You know, he did some sort of weird thing. And, you know, it's flattering. It's, you know, who doesn't want to see their face on TV, right? But I thought about it. I said, you know what? My customers aren't here. We're just manufacturing here. Our customers are all over the country. We don't have a single store in this area that buys a product. It doesn't make any sense for me to advertise in this local market and spend thousands of dollars on this thing that just make me feel like I'm famous or something, or make me feel good. I don't need to boost my ego. So, you know, be aware of people coming in and trying to get you to spend outside of your budget. Set that and be strict about it, and be just hardcore about it. Okay. Your support system. You might know what I mean by that? Have a great support system? Somebody give me some examples?
Like the nest.
Like the nest, thank you. That's what I was looking for.
Your mentors?
Yeah, your mentors. You know, we had good mentors. I have good mentors now. We didn't have great mentors at the very beginning. I really didn't know what the word meant, but we had a couple people that we asked questions. But what we found was that a lot of times those people weren't the right people to talk to. You know, we were thinking big, and most of the time they were thinking small. And so, you know, we'd hear what they were saying, and it made us question really what we thought was right and the direction that we wanted to go. And so, surround yourself with people that support your ideas. Now, it doesn't mean that they say yes to everything. It just means, and doesn't mean that they don't question you, but it does mean that they support your dream. Another story on that, or question on that, is does everybody have somebody in their life that just drains them of energy? No?
Yes.
Everybody must have one of those friends that just, it makes you tired to be with them.
Too many.
Right. So I've got a friend of mine. God bless him. I love him, but I feel like I get hit by a truck if I spend 2 hours with him. It just runs me over because the world is against him. You know, everything is awful, everything is painful, and so I've had to learn to just kind of cut him out of my life and give him just a tiny little bit because he doesn't make me feel good, right? And I'm a pretty positive person, but he even makes me negative. So surround yourself with people that make you happy. Surround yourself with people that understand what your dream is. You know, I love my father, I love my parents, and I love some of my friends, but they don't understand what I do. They don't understand why I would do it, right? I think my mother probably still wants me to be a lawyer or something. I'm 46 years old. You know, go get a law degree and get a job. You know, they want you to be safe, right? They want you to be secure, and entrepreneurship is anything but that. But anyway, surround yourself with people, minimize your exposure to the people that are negative, and surround yourself with positive people. Let's see. Lawyer. Get a good lawyer and a good accountant. Get a good lawyer, get a good accountant. I'm going to say it one more time. Get a good lawyer, get a good accountant. I was in Islamabad on Monday. I went to eat at a local restaurant. Got to talking to the entrepreneur. He'd been in business for 8 or 9 months. And he said when he was talking to a friend when he opened his business, and his friend gave him a business card of a tax lawyer, and he never called that person. But you know, about 6 months into business, the tax authorities came storming in his business. And all he could think to do was go find that business card, right, and hand it to the person in charge. And I guess the person in charge took it and looked at it and kind of made a funny face and walked out, you know. But he had engaged that lawyer, and he had put that person on his team. And I don't know what the tax authorities do here, but I have all kinds of visions of what they do in my country, and I don't know if it's the same, but if it is, it's scary. And so having that business cards, you know, and being able to give it to them and say, let them go deal with it, saved him time and energy of having to deal with these people for a couple days probably. So always have a good accounting and legal team on your side. They can save you money. I know it's money up front. It's sometimes a retainer or some other thing, but have those people in your pocket so that you can advise them. The other part of this is, I'm sure all of you want investment in your company at some point. If you don't do this right from the beginning, it's going to be really hard down the road to get investment. Companies aren't going to look at you if you don't have your books in order, if you don't have your legal structure in order, because it sends up all kinds of red flags. So do it right from the beginning. It sets you up for success later on and saves you a lot of money down the road. Learning to say no. This is one of the things I want to not leave you with today, but the most important things to leave you with. It saves you time and money. A couple of examples. And on top of being OCD, I think I have a little ADHD. Okay, I got all kinds of issues. What I found is that what I do is I make a to-do list every day, right? I make a to-do list. And I make it the night before I go into the office. And that guides me as to what's critical for the business to get done the next day. And what I was finding in myself was that I would get to the office, and 5 minutes after sitting down at my desk, a parade of people would start coming into my desk. Phone calls would start coming in. People would start coming in with their problems, and all of a sudden it was 6 o'clock, and I got nothing done on my list, right? And so I've had to learn to just close my door. I've got a no sign on my door. When I have my no sign on my door, it means do not come in. Like, I've had to start trying to say no so that I can manage my day and not be distracted. I also just have to say no sometimes to things. We'll get into the money part of saying no in a minute. But you just have to manage your time because you can get distracted on other people's issues. The result of me closing my door and not having that business plan in front of my door to keep it open, I took that away, by the way, is people learn to solve their own problems, right? When I was listening to everybody and listening to their problems and listening and trying to solve their problems for them, they let me. And the minute you start saying, no, you guys deal with it, you're empowered to deal with it, your staff and your team start solving some of those problems. So learn to say no and don't solve everybody's problems. Manage your time. I sometimes go out of my office once a week and go sit in a coffee shop so nobody can reach me, so I can focus on the things that are important. So learn to say no with your time. In terms of money, also learn to say no. That comes with the financial discipline we talked about a few minutes ago. Again, people are going to want you to spend extra money on things that you know are not right. Learn to say no. Your vendors or your customers are going to come and ask for credit. Learn to say no. And I know that's somewhat cultural, that people want to buy stuff on credit here, but you have to be able to set some strict policies about that. We'll talk about that in a minute. Deliver the products and service fast. I'm going to combine that with customer service. I believe in over-delivering what you promise. Okay? I'm going to tell you why. Setting expectations and over-delivering saved our business, and it actually propelled our business. Now, we had always paid our bills to our vendors. We didn't pay ourselves the first 2 years of the business. We paid our employees, we paid our bills, we took care of the customers. When there was a problem, we took care of it. When we had a problem with a vendor paying a bill, we would call them, we would be in communication with them, let them know that we couldn't pay, it'd be another 5 or 10 days. We did this because it was the right thing, but we did it so that we had good relationships with them. So this served us really well. I'll get into that in a minute. For 2 years, I knew that this product needed to be in the toy industry, but I couldn't get anybody in the toy industry to pay attention to me. I finally got a lady out in Iowa, or in the middle of the United States. I'm on the East Coast. This was about 1,000 miles away from my business. She finally accepted the product into her store. No other toy stores would accept us. No other toy stores would let us sell the product. In fact, I would walk in with my sales case, and they'd say, turn around, go back out, because they knew what I was going to ask them. So the customer, we were about a month or 2 months away from being out of business. We didn't have that much cash left. We were almost done. We were almost out of money. And so I got a call from her in January 2009, and she said, you need to come to the toy fair in New York City. And I said, I don't have any money. I'm sleeping in my van when I make deliveries now because I don't have money to stay in a hotel. I'm eating soup out of a little can. You know, I'm broke. I don't have any money. She said, you need to find the money. You need to do whatever you have to do to make it. So we figured it out. We got a booth. We couldn't afford the hotels, but we were up there. We made it. What I didn't understand about her, I didn't know about her, was that she had just become the president of the Small Toy Association in America. And she stood up in their general meeting the day before Toy Fair and said, this is the only thing selling in my store. This is in the middle of the recession, by the way. So the stores were hurting. Small retailers were getting killed. They were dying. And this product was the only thing in her store selling, and I knew it was a good product. I knew it would sell. But just with her credibility, because we had been a good customer, because we had over-delivered, and we had been delivering to her, and she knew it was a loss when we delivered to her because she was so far away, that she got up and she took care of us. There was another side to that story. We walked out of that toy fair with several hundred stores, and it went from a $80,000 to $100,000 company to a $5.5 million company almost overnight. And then it grew even larger to a $9 million company by the end of the year. And we ended up with a couple thousand of those stores. Now, we couldn't deliver that. We couldn't deliver that product because, again, we didn't have any money. We had orders, we had no money to fulfill those orders. So our plan was to get in our car and drive to all of our vendors. We had 6 or so vendors that we needed to go see, and we had to talk to them. We had to convince them to give us credit. And to this day, I'm astonished that they all gave us credit because we took those orders, we showed them what the orders were, the stores that we had, and the plan. And they all gave us 6 months credit. And the only reason I'm convinced to this day that they did that is because we had paid them every time, although it was painful, and we could have held the payments back a little longer to our benefit. They all knew that we were struggling. And so they gave us a chance. So all I can say in terms of the customer service and over-delivering is make it part of your business philosophy because it will serve you well. Who goes into a restaurant or to a place of business because of the service? Anybody? Yeah. It makes a huge difference. And often, we're not going to all create the next Uber. We're not all going to create the next Facebook. Let's face it, we're not. We're just not going to create the next new unicorn. So most of the businesses that we create, there's probably something like it already on the market. We're probably competing with somebody else. And so our differentiation can be our service. It can be the way we give our service, it's the way we do it. A lot of businesses fail to focus on that. And I think that's a shame because it can make or break you. So focus on that. Let's talk about network. Let's put social networks aside. Let's talk about your personal network. Obviously, you've got a great network of people here that you can rely on, but you need to grow that. And I'll tell you a story. I've got a friend of mine who is a real estate agent. Funny guy. I went to high school with him. Wasn't a very serious student, but he runs a top business now in real estate. Doesn't advertise. What he does is he goes to multiple networking events every day. He's involved in the community, involved in civic organizations, involved in charities, and he's involved in so much stuff in the community that anytime anybody thinks of real estate, they think of him because he's so active out there and he's a pillar in the community. And so when everybody needs to sell a house or buy a house or rent a property, they recommend him and he gets the business. So your network is extremely important. I'm here today in Pakistan because of somebody I met that works at the embassy in Islamabad. I met them 7.5 years ago in El Salvador. Okay? And I'm here today because of that. I got a book publishing deal with a major publishing house because of my network. I'm writing for Inc. today because of my network. I'm writing today for CNBC because of my network. There's not a job I don't get because of that network now. And it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of effort, but it is essential to your personal growth, your professional growth, and it's something that you should put a lot of attention on. Yes?
Can you share any networking tips?
I'm going to, yeah. So let's go to the, I think I made the point with the physical network and your community network. Let's talk about your world network now and beyond sort of the borders of Pakistan. Everybody has influencers that they follow on social media, maybe through Twitter or LinkedIn or other mediums. And that's good. Now, who has a LinkedIn account? Anybody? If you don't, shame on you. I hope you raised your hand anyway, just out of embarrassment. Okay? Anyway, with social networks and reaching influencers, here are a couple things. We follow who is following us, or we look at who's following us. I've got a couple people who are stalking me right now, and I know every time they like something, I know every time they comment on something, and I know ultimately they're going to ask me for something. Okay? That's okay. All right? I like to see people following and reposting what I put out. I like seeing people hit that like button or that share button, right? We take notice of it when somebody reaches out to us. Now, I don't often answer a lot of that unless there's something that catches my attention that I'm interested in. But I do notice it. And I've written several pieces on reaching influencers in social media. And look, it's not hard. It takes time. It takes a lot of time to build and reach influencers. But you can do it. The way you do it is you like and you follow what they post. When they do something that's noteworthy, send them a note of congratulations. Or when they post an article, say, and if you truly liked it, point out something in the article that you liked and say, hey, that really hit home, thank you. Start having a conversation, even if it's one-sided for a while. Okay? Because at some point it probably won't be one-sided. But have and do that interaction with them. Reach out to the people that can make a difference in your business, or people that you just find interesting. I reach out to 5 or so people a day on LinkedIn, new people. And usually 5 or 6 new people a day on Twitter. The reason why is even at my level, there are people that I want to reach. And I've been very successful at doing that with this strategy. And so all I can tell you is make the effort. You have to provide, obviously, something of value to them. But reach out to the people that can make a difference. Okay? Did that help you? Did that help?
Reaching out to people right now.
Let's talk about collections real quick. Let's talk about money. Anybody married? No? Just a couple people? Just a couple? Is money the toughest conversation you have? No? Wow. You're unique. Well, look.
What is the toughest
We don't have to go there, right?
He said money is.
Look, money's one of those things that's tough to talk about in any culture. I'm going to tell you a couple money lessons that I learned. So, does anybody know what Peace Corps is? So, I was a Peace Corps volunteer. The U.S. has a program that sends you overseas to volunteer in a country. So, I got sent to Uzbekistan. Now, anybody been to the United States? Yeah. So, when in the United States, when you go into a store, you pull something off the shelf, there's a price tag on it, you go up to the register and you pay the price, and nobody asks for a discount, nobody negotiates, So I learned to negotiate, and it served me well in Peace Corps. I lived with a family the whole time I was there. So I had a host mother, and I would go to the bazaar with her in the morning, and she'd say, well, why don't you do it today? Why don't you negotiate for everything? So I'd go up and I'd get the tomatoes, or get a kilo of tomatoes or a kilo of sugar, and I'd get ready to pay the person. The person would say 30 whatever, and my host mother would say, no. She'd whisper in my ear, you need a discount, ask for more discount. And she did this for 2 years, so I finally got it. I finally learned. I finally broke my American habit of of just doing what I was told, you know, with money. So I learned to negotiate, and it served me well in business. But getting comfortable asking to be paid and asking for money is something that's important too. I think I've calculated we lost probably a couple $100,000 by not asking for the money and being strict on our collections. You know, people saying that they were going to pay, and they never paid. And we would continue to give them product, and maybe they would give us a little bit of money to string us along, to bring us along, and we'd give them more product. And so all I can say, I know you have cultural context around this, and that people want to do things on credit. But you know what, if you don't ask, and if you're not strict about asking for money, they're not going to value what you're giving them, what you're selling them. And if you're not really strict and stern and tough about getting collections, they're not going to pay you. What I learned is that it's often the person that's yelling the loudest or being the loudest about getting paid, this is the one that's going to get paid. So don't be afraid to do that. They're still going to do business with you. I thought when we changed our whole collections policy after we lost a bunch of money, and we said that you have to pay up front, that we were going to lose a bunch of business. Now, a lot of the companies were upset, and they screamed, and they yelled, and they got angry, but at the end of the day, they still bought the product. And over time, they got in the habit of just paying the bill when they were supposed to pay the bill. You know, and so it made them upset with us, but at the end of the day, our cash flow improved, and our cash flow situation became steady. And that was the point. We couldn't operate when somebody would take 60 days or 90 days to pay us. We couldn't operate. And so make sure you put strict policies in place. Don't let somebody string you along. If they do not pay, cut them off. Cut them off from the service. I can't reiterate that enough. I know it sounds harsh, but I'm the kind of person that likes to say yes. It makes me happy to say yes. It's easier to say yes. You know, you use more muscles in your mouth when you say no. But you have to do that because cash flow is the base of your business. And what I've learned is people will not pay if they can get away with it. So. We've covered a lot of this. All right, so let's get into questions. I want to do that now. Questions? Don't be shy.
We want to see those toys that you used.
If we can get online in a little bit, I'll show you some of them. Yes.
So I'm a sole founder, so I don't have partners or co-founders.
Mhm.
I'm also married with 2 young kids, right? So I know you mentioned, yes, I am more flexible, and the reason why I started my business was because I didn't want to take so much time away from them when they're so young.
Mm-hmm.
But now that because we're an education company, our courses are now selling on a kind of global scale, and it's getting busier and busier, tougher to handle, and I find that I'm still attached to my phone. I'm now the boss because I was getting looks from my employees. When you said getting emails from your boss at like 11 p.m., so I'm becoming that boss now, and I don't want to do that to my employees either. I want them to have their time off and do all of that. But then how do you think we take control of time again? Because I'm really good with the kids and all, like giving them their time, having my routine, wake up this time in the morning, they have me in the evening doing their homework, their school activities and all of that, spending time with my husband and giving time to my mom. But then where is the me time and how do I take that out? Because then I'm in Pakistan, I'm dealing with UK hours and European hours, so I'm working till like 11 any day anyway. And then where is my time? How do I regain control of that?
How long have you been doing it?
2 years.
2 years? You got another 5 years of this. or more. I'm just being honest. You're talking to the wrong person in terms of work-life balance. I believe in going all in. I believe, I put in my savings, We mortgaged houses and cars, and we didn't have an exit plan. Don't ever tell me you have an exit plan, because I think you're preparing to fail. The work-life balance thing is hard. I think it's, the first couple of years, particularly if you have a business that's taken off, you got to be on top of it. And I guess the question becomes, when do you bring more people on to handle some of this?
That's such a delicate balance as well, because
Right.
there's certain areas of the business that are earning, but then there's certain areas of the business that are burning. And,
Right.
and I'm really possessive about this business because I've grown it to this stage without any help from it. Well, not as in I've got support from my husband and my mom and all of that, but
Right.
without any help or anything
Right.
like that. Right? So now I wanted to keep growing at that pace, so I just can't stop myself. I sleep like 3-4 hours sometimes, some nights on a regular basis.
It's not healthy.
And that's not healthy. And sometimes I can feel it, right? So I get the flu and then I crash for like a week and then I can't do anything. But like, how do you find the balance? Because you read these articles online saying, entrepreneurs are people who are so disciplined and get 8 hours of sleep a night and, do all this, and how?
That sounds good, but
Yeah.
I got 3 last night, so look, I think that that's the reality of it, I don't think there's any magic that I can tell you, any real good. You just have to do it, I will tell you, there is light at the end of the tunnel. There is a point where, you can do what you want to do. You'll be able to do and have the time to do what you want to do, and there comes a time too where you have to give up some control, and you have to bring on some other people, and you have to bring on some skilled people that can carry some of this burden for you. I don't know what the finances look like to be able to do that, but at some point you have to do that to grow, because you can't keep the pace
That's
up.
what I feel is that thing that you said about over-delivering, so that really hit home, because the thing is, I
Yeah.
still get on my customer services web chat when there's a problem and deal with a customer. I still make sure that I have students who I deal with online. If there's a complaint, I'm still directly involved, because I feel that we grew and we differentiated ourselves from the customers because of the service that we got. We'll help somebody even if they're studying the course with a competitor, but we'll just help them anyway if they need help with their assignment, because then
Right.
they'll actually refer their colleagues to us, and if they want to do another course, they'll come back to us, right? So I learned that, so yeah, that works, but then that takes more of me. But then how do you control that over-delivery aspect as you start handing over more of the stuff to other people and you have to trust them to have that dedication?
I think that's that's actually a good point that I want to talk about. Does anybody here have an employee that they need to get rid of? I'll be just kind of blunt. Yeah?
I can't say anything. No, not at all.
Look, it's a sensitive subject. Nobody likes to talk about it. But we all have got people sometimes that aren't pulling their weight. And we can't be afraid to make those changes that are right for the company. Because like you said, you've put everything into this. You're putting your heart and soul in it. Don't sit on somebody that you know is not right. Make that move. Find the right team. It takes trial and error. And we do a lot in our hiring process to mitigate that, to try to make a better decision. And when we do team hiring, we have the lowest person in the organization and the highest person in the organization. I like seeing how they're going to treat the lowest person, right? We test for the skills that they have on their CV. When they say they can do something, we make sure they can do it. Because when we scaled up, when we kind of exploded, we made a ton of hiring mistakes, a ton of them. And it was brutal. And so many people will lie or misrepresent, let me put it that way, what they can do. The third is you call references from previous jobs. Social media, we check social media, so be careful what you post on social media. It shocks me every time I open up LinkedIn and there's a picture of somebody shirtless or in a bikini, or their professional face or their professional photo is them at a party holding a beer, or, just be cognizant of that. And that's what we hire on. I know that wasn't your question, but it was a point that I did want to make. Finding the right team is trial and error. It's using your network. Maybe some of this you can outsource. Is it easy? No. And are people going to make mistakes? Yes. They're not going to do it and take care of it like you will, even if they're invested in what you're doing, even if it's the best place to work in the world. They're still not going to treat it like you. Nobody could sell the toys like I could, right? But at some point, I couldn't do the schedule anymore. I couldn't keep the pace and continue to grow, right? So at some point, you have to figure out what that is, and I don't know what it is for you, but bringing on another you, finding another, a partner.
That's my sore point.
Yeah, I know. Any other question? Yes.
I have a question related to the business plan. Like there are certain aspects of the business plan. For example, there are like a marketing segment, harvest strategy, finance. So which one do you think attracts most of the readers or the persons who want to invest their money? Either it could be finance or marketing on the general description, or they are interested in reading the harvest strategy. What do you think is the most important feature of the business?
I'd say, the businesses the things that I invest in, I don't even look at the business plan to start with. If I have 3 criteria. I have to like the founders. If I sit down over coffee with you, look, let's face it, we make judgments about each other almost instantly with the way you look, the way you dress, and we do it subconsciously as people. We can't help it. We just do it. However, I don't invest in people, and I don't even look at the business plan first. I'm looking at whether you and I connect. Number 2, do I like the idea? I don't invest in stuff I don't invest in something unless I'm fascinated by it, that I think it's really interesting. And number 2. And number 3 is, have they set up the structure? The first thing I look at is, do they have a history of their books? Do they have a good legal structure? I also like people that have gone all in, okay? I don't want to look at a business that's not probably already a year or 2 old. I want to make sure that the founders have put every bit of their own resources into the business, and are starting to make it work, and the business is turning a corner and has potential for huge growth. And it's the reason I don't like the conversation around money, and it drives me crazy when people say, I can't start my business until I get that VC or that money, that influx of cash. I equate it to something like this. When I give my 13-year-old son, when I give him money, he gladly goes out and spends it. All right? When I make him earn it, he puts it in his pocket and he saves it. I think giving businesses money prematurely is bad for them. What made us successful was that we mortgaged our cars and our houses, and we put everything in. And so we had to watch every penny, every dime, every dollar, and it made us disciplined. And that has served us well from the very beginning. If we had, I still have the same office chair I had back then. We don't go out and buy stuff when we need it, or want it. We get stuff when we need it. We don't do stuff when we want it. So I guess that's what I would say is the business plan comes later, right? That's the first thing I look at is the people and I know that's sort of a cliche, but it's true. But when it comes to the business plan, I think people look at the numbers. The numbers tell the story. Words are nice, but the numbers tell the story. And it pains me to say that because I'm a words guy. I like to write. But I can write a nice story. But the numbers tell the truth. Yes? Let's go here and then I'll come back. Yep.
So, during your journey, you said you did not pay yourself for a couple of years.
2 years.
Yeah. A lot of the entrepreneurs in this room have a lot of responsibilities at the same time. And might not be able to sort of sustain for a couple of years. How was your journey of those 2 years, and what would you advise us?
Well, I had a wife and a kid on the way. Look, I know you have social responsibilities. I know you have responsibilities, but I firmly believe you have to be willing to do whatever it takes. If you're 30 years old and you have to move back in with your parents, I know how painful that is, but you have to do it. Because mom and dad will always feed you, right? All right? If you have to take that second job, or I've got a programmer right now, he's trying to do some other things, but he's good at programming. He's trying to build another business. He needs to take programming jobs while he has them, and while he doesn't like them, but he's good at them and he's getting some of that business. And while he's trying to build his other business and support himself, he's got to do that. You know, it takes away from what he's trying to build, but he's got to do that to sustain himself and pay for food on the table. I just believe that you got to make those sacrifices. I mean, I get the responsibilities, and I totally get it. But there's always a way. It's not always the most pleasant way. But that's why people quit, right? That's why there's such a high failure rate of businesses, because people get to that tough spot and they don't want to go make that decision that they have to make to survive. It's easier to quit. I played American football growing up, and I had a coach at halftime, and I remember the veins on the top of his head were, you know, when we were losing, the veins on the top of his head would pop out of his head. He would be really mad, and he'd say to us, boys, you know, winners never quit and quitters never win. And that's kind of stuck with me, and so I'm just willing, I guess, to just go all in. And that's from my own psychology, because if I feel like I have a way to exit, it's the easy way, you know. So, you had another one?
Yeah, so it's about the legal structure of the company, because you said that you had a company that was operating in multiple countries at the same time. So can you just say a little bit more about what kind of legal structure you used, what were the benefits and the challenges, and even the company structure? So how did you?
Right. So we had companies in each country. Well, we distributed to 35 countries, so we weren't set up in 35. Yeah, we were present in 3. We had an S corporation in the United States, and then in China, I don't remember what it was, but so we had corporations set up in all 3, and so the transactions would be between those corporations, and those were just it was, and they were independent. They're all subsidiaries.
Okay.
Yeah.
The head company was in the USA.
Yeah. And that's an area where I defer to the law on that. I just know it's really smart to get legal advice.
The structure that you have, like, so you just have like managers who manage each region, or present on the ground.
So you have I was the president of the company, and so we had a GM, or what was it called, a managing director in China, and we had a managing director in Canada, and they all reported to us, and so that was sort of the structure. I mean, it's pretty loose. I mean, it's still you know, relatively. We can do big volume with pretty small numbers because it's mainly design and sales, and so there's not thousands of people to manage. So, but we had three companies to essentially manage, and the Chinese company was the manufacturing company, and they would sell the product to the U.S. company and the Canadian company, and the sales, and we would bill the client for the product. Yeah. Any other questions? Don't be shy.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, how do you decide how much power you should give to a certain person? Because in
our journey, we have learned that there's no supremacy. And
There's no what?
There's no supremacy.
Okay.
You can just put everything down that I'm a CEO, I can do this, you have to do it. Okay, I agree to the point. But when you involve people in, they start taking things very easily. It's like, if they're not doing it, they can't really expect my, questioning them. They don't expect such things. They are like, it's okay if they're not working. So how to pull that pull that thing back and say you have to work, either work or leave.
Do you have job descriptions?
Yeah.
No. Do you have goals for each employee? No.
But we usually sit together and say, okay, this has to be done in this way and this has to be done in this way.
And how do you hold them accountable for that? How do you hold them accountable if they don't do it?
We have a fellow card, and if there is no update, I just put any update here. So if there is no update, I can't really go. I have to skip that area, either to walk out or just to vent my anger. It's like, I can't really question. I think that's my flaw.
Why can't you question?
I just say, why isn't this done? And if there's no answer,
Wow. Okay. I guess a couple things. Job descriptions, timelines, objectives that they have to meet, and the way you want them to meet them. Make them, I would put together a document for each one of these employees, sit down with them and tell them what their goals are and their objectives and your expectations. How many employees do you have?
we don't have employees. We are 2 partners and then 3 interns.
3 interns. Are you paying them?
Yeah. Stipend,
Okay.
yes.
Stipends? Are you talking more about your partner? That's a whole nother issue.
I don't know, but yes, I open up. If something is not working, I open up with them, and if something is working, I do open up.
I mean, are the interns not getting done what you need done because they don't know how to do it? Or is that the problem? Or is it they're interns and they feel like they don't have to work very hard?
It's like when they come in, they say, yes, we're ready to work, we are free, we're done with our exams, and we're done with everything. But when they when they come up with working, like we're sick, we have things to do, we have our test.
Then you can't keep them around because you're wasting your time. I mean, you might be able to hire one person full time and get more done than having 3 interns that decide they want to go out. They want to go to the park for the day or something. I think is interns just a way to save money from hiring a full-time person here? Or are you just trying to get some labor from? I mean, what's the vision behind?
The thing is, if we hire a full-time programmer, that's going to cost a lot.
A lot.
So we divided our work into 3 modules, and we hired 3 interns. And
Okay.
gave each intern 1 module. So none of them is done with any of the modules.
Would it be better to do freelancers? I mean, would it be better to hire a freelancer to do each module?
Maybe yes.
Okay.
We could try that option.
I mean, I would just look at a different structure because obviously interns aren't cutting it and not making it work for you. Are they talented when they want to work? Or do you have to spend a lot of time fixing what they do?
No, actually we ask for a report back. So if that thing is not done, it's not on the report. So it's just like we are not getting the way we had visioned it. So yes, I'm just I just feel that they're very open. They're very
Casual?
They get cheesy with me if they're not done. Like this is nothing to joke around, and
Then you know what the decision is, don't you?
It's hard to change people on a project every now and then. It's like
I understand.
because you have to wireframes, what had to be done.
But how far are you behind on this project now?
Sorry?
How far are you behind on this project now?
No, wait a minute. Sorry? If we, like, if the things had gone the way we had figured it out, we would have done it like right now. But we're just done with one feature,
So how much longer will it take you?
maybe in 3 months.
Is that because of the interns?
It's because I don't know programming myself, so I have to depend on each of the things they come up with.
Okay.
So do I have to learn programming?
Technical co-founder.
Yeah.
I already have a co-founder.
Is he technical?
Not that much, no. Even she's not technical.
It sounds like you need a new team. Let's leave it at that. I'll let you make that decision, but it sounds like you need a new team. It doesn't sound like that team is going to get you to where you need to be. So it's time to make a change.
And maybe starting all over again is not going to delay it as much as having people with you and letting them delay it.
Yeah. And the pain that it's causing you and the mental anguish that it's causing you to go through this. Not worth it. Any other questions?
Yeah, so when you started your own business and you had this great idea for product, how did you know that it will sell in the market? Did you identify a gap, or did you think that your product was better?
I wish. So his question was, how did we know that the product was going to be a success, or how did we have so much confidence in the product? My business partner's an MBA. My education's in political science. But I had been in business and a consultant for a long time in business. And we made the worst business decision to buy this product ever. So the company, when we bought the company, it was a one-product company. And my lawyer and an accountant said, I am going to disown you if you buy this company. He had no books. He took us to the bank and said, look, my company makes money. He opened a bank deposit box and he had cash in there. And so he thought he was rich. It was a terrible case study. It was hard to deliver. It was a live product. It was a live animal and it had water in the container. It was a terrible product. But we fell in love with it, and we felt, and what did it for me was we went to a consumer show. It was, we have these exhibitions all over the country pretty much every weekend. Some are selling pet things and children's toys, and so we went to a couple of those before we bought the company. And every weekend, we went to 2 of these before we bought the company, and all day for 3 days during these expos, the children were going crazy over this product. And we had kids six deep all weekend. And so we knew we had something. We knew that we had to figure out how to scale it. We had to figure out how to package it. We had to figure out how to ship it. And we had to figure out how to do that. We had to do that in a very short period of time. But we just fell in love. I don't know that we knew. I mean, if you'd asked me, was there any science or did we do any case studies? No, it was just the fact that we would go to these shows and the kids were just going crazy over it. So we knew that they would do that in the stores, right? We knew that if we had it in retail stores and we had it on a national level, that it would take off. And that product was a toy of the year, and it did take off when we finally made that leap into the stores. But initially, I tried to give it away. When I was getting kicked out of toy stores, I would say, look, let me put this in a consignment. I'll give you the product. I'll give you the first box of the product and show you that it'll sell. And they just didn't want anything to do with it. And because what I didn't know about that business was most of these stores had a system. So they'd get a catalog, right? And they had a catalog and they had a sales rep, and the sales rep would come in and say, well, you need to buy this, 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 and this. This is selling across the country. And so they'd place their order and they'd get their shipment. They didn't do cold calling. Nobody just walked into their store and sold them a product. And I didn't really know that. I didn't know what I was doing. Just to answer your question, we didn't know, but we believed.
Sometimes in your business you have to go and get some big shots on board with you. So how do you go to some organization that you know is working well, and how do you sell your product to them? When you know they have a substitute product, it may be not as good as you, but still you feel that there is a need and there is a market in the gap. But you cannot figure out how to interact with them or how to go and sell your ideas to them, or how to even make contact with them.
So the question is, how do you make contact with a bigger company
Yeah.
that you need to partner with? I think be relentless about it. I mean, I've stood outside the door waiting for a toy store owner. You know, I've waited for them to get to work. I've gone gone and sat in the parking lot at 7 o'clock in the morning and waited for them to get there. And I knew that they weren't going to see me if I came in during regular hours. So I think you have to do whatever you have to do. Set up appointments with people under them, find somebody that knows them, connect with them on social media first. Do whatever you have to do. I don't know. Again, sometimes you just have to track them down, you know. I mean, you have to do it in a professional way, but write them a letter, write them a note. I don't know what's culturally acceptable, but I don't know if that answered your question, but yeah. Don't be shy. Look, if there are people that can help your business, do not be shy about asking. I mean, if you know that you need them, be upfront about it. And if you have something good to offer them, you know, business, people are always open to business opportunities. If you have something to offer them that they need, that helps you too, it's likely they'll see you. Yes?
Okay, so if you have an investor and you kind of think that they're interested in investing, but you don't know how to block them, so how do you do that? How do you bring them to a point where they're like, yes, I'm now absolutely ready to invest, give out that check?
So you've got somebody that's thinking about investing,
Yeah.
and you want to push them over the edge?
Yeah.
Okay. How long have you been operating?
Well,
Or what are they saying to you? What's when they tell you they're thinking about it, or what do they say to you?
basically, I've operated for 7 years before already, and now I'm basically starting a new thing. So technically, they have my credentials and they know about me already. So on that basis, they can invest, but what they're unsure of is the product line. In other words, it's a similar product, but I guess they're just kind of doubtful about me, considering that I'm very young and they're very old people.
Is that a negotiating position, or is it a truly they're hesitant about the product?
They're not hesitant about the product, they're more hesitant about me,
As leading the company?
yeah.
Okay. Why? Have they said why? And how do you know that?
I can feel it,
You can feel it?
yeah.
Then why do you want them as a partner? If they don't want you, why do you want them?
Well, everybody needs investors.
The other investors. Look, I'm being honest with you. If they don't want you, don't chase them. You want to partner with somebody that sees you and values what you do. We're investing in you. When I invest in a company, I'm investing in the CEO or the founder. I'm not looking to get rid of the founder. I'm not looking to replace the founder. I don't want to come in and run the company. I'm investing because that person had an idea and a passion and a dream and a vision. So if your founders don't appreciate you, who came up, you came up with this line and stuff? what are they? What are they hesitant? They think that they need somebody more seasoned, more experienced to run the product line.
Yeah.
Actually, I get that feeling as well regularly. I go into meetings and they keep asking me, so who's...
Or is it because you're a woman?
I think it's
Women and being young, they keep saying, okay, and I say, I'm the director. Okay, but who's the CEO? It's like, I'm the CEO. I own the company. You mean your
Yeah.
husband owns the company? No, I mean, I own the company. So I end up having this argument with like this, principal of some school without fail, every
Yeah.
time. So then I have to tell them, oh, look, I'm married and I have 2 kids, so I'm old enough to have, some kind of respect
Yeah.
in your eyes or something. So that is something that we
Oh, it makes absolutely no
Yeah.
I can at least put on that card, but there's a lot of people here who don't have
Which I hope makes you more determined. Look, you're probably going to fight that forever. And that's sad. And you shouldn't have to. I guess I just don't believe, if somebody doesn't believe in me, I don't spend a lot of time with them. I don't spend a lot of time and chase them. I don't mind working hard to prove that the company is worth an investment. I don't mind bending over backwards to show that what we're doing is a good investment. But if they don't invest in you and they invest in the company, they're going to get rid of you, right? So they might invest in the company now, but then they're going to replace you, and they're going to have control. So I guess it's a matter of what you're willing to do, but I wouldn't want to give up control, because you're going to fight that. If they don't believe in you now, they're not going to ever believe in you. Yes.
10 minutes.
Okay, 10 minutes. Yes.
So, for a very early stage startup, what should be the best priority for the founder or for the person who's leading it? Selling the services very low just to sustain the prospective customers, not very low but a bit low, just because you sustain the prospective customers, or just to when have that thing in your mind that value your services just because you value the person.
I'm trying to hear you.
you.
So what?
Yeah, okay, I can repeat the question. So, for a very early stage startup person, what should be the best priority? First, that selling services a bit low because you want to sustain your customers, prospective customers who are here the first time entering into the market, or you should have the thing of valuing your own services because if you won't value it, the person you're dealing with won't value it, and it won't have an
Yeah.
exponential effect. What's the best way?
Well, there are a lot of pricing strategies, obviously. The question for her was, does she price low to get entrance into the market, or price where she thinks where you think it should be, based on its value?
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you what to do. I don't know the answer here. I always like basing price on value, because it's a lot harder to go up. It's a lot harder and more painful to go up. However, I don't know the product and I don't know what you're trying to do, so I don't have a great answer for you. Sometimes pricing to get entrance into the market is a smart decision. So I see value in both. I just don't know what your uphill battle is going to be if you want to get to the price where you need to be. You can't price it too low, but like you said, because they're not going to place any value on it if you place it too low. So you want to tell me a little bit more about what's the service? What's the service
So,
or product?
my startup is about career counseling. So there's a void, yes, of not having career counseling around in the society. That's what I provide to customers, to my people around.
Credit counseling,
Career counseling.
career counseling.
And
Okay.
that's what I'm doing. But I stepping into this market, I figured out that not actually figured out. I have this confusion what I should do first. Maintain my customer traffic and stuff by selling my services a bit low, or I should have this thing maintained that because I have good quality services, so I need to catch them back and something that that I deserve.
So one of the services makes a lot more money, but you have to do a lot of volume. Is that
Yeah.
okay? And if you do this other thing, you can do less volume but make more money.
Yeah, but again, it would not. I guess it would not create that much of effect because I still have to fill up that void. If I go after making money and having the
I guess I go back to the value. I like charging for what I'm worth. It goes back to the money conversation. I don't like to make less than what I'm worth, and don't be afraid to ask for it. So, any other questions, guys? Nope. Well, let's do one thing. I've got business cards for you. So I want you guys to continue the conversation. Yes.
Can you have the slides too?
Yes, you can have slides. I think it's on that computer, so
We'll share it.
you can share it. Please connect with me on social media. If you took pictures, please tag me.